time for waiting in Iraq is over. The days of our open-ended commitment must come to a close, and the need to bring this war to an end is here. That's why today I'm introducing the Iraq War De-Escalation Act of 2007.
Welcome to another hour of the Steve Malzberg Show, ladies and gentlemen. That was Barack Obama. Obviously, in 2007, Senator Barack Obama. You know, just by looking at him and listening to him, you could tell how in over his head he was even then. But yet, a year later, he was elected president of the United States. And of course, that plan opposing the surge was a huge, huge, huge mistake. And the surge was a big success. And then, of course, once the president got in there, he pulled the troops out prematurely. And now we are where we are. We're going to talk about it with Michael Barone, senior political analyst for the Washington Examiner, resident fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and renowned polling expert, author, you name it, etc. Hello, Michael.
Hey, Steve. How you doing?
Good. Great to talk to you. We just heard a clip of Barack Obama in 2007 introducing a bill aimed at ending the war in Iraq. You know, it's interesting. You've written a lot about the multilateral situation in going after ISIS. But first I want to talk about this paradox of Obama being forced to do things that, you know, will alienate his base for the midterm. Certainly going after ISIS, although he keeps saying no ground troops, that's not going to make his base happy.
Well, it's not going to make part of his base happy. I mean, he was elected in part in those Democratic primaries because he had, admittedly as a state senator from Illinois, heavily Democratic district, opposed the Iraq War resolution at a time when Hillary Clinton, who many of your listeners will remember, voted for it. And, you know, so the idea is that, and I think a lot of people on the anti-war left have a suspicion that if you go in a little bit, that is just a prelude to going in very much. They're still arguing against Lyndon Johnson in Vietnam almost 50 years later. And, you know, that is a matter of some concern. It's not totally crazy to be concerned about that, but, you know, the president's saying no ground troops. He's saying we're multilateral, although we have very little commitment as yet. Maybe we'll get more of military forces from our other 8 or 9 allies. I mean, George W. Bush, the supposedly unilateral president, had more than 30 allies when we went into Iraq in 2003. But that was unilateral.
Yeah, well, how they got away with that, you know, saying the cowboy went it alone when, like you said, you know, talk to the men and women who survived, the troops who died from various countries. I mean, it was just a horrific thing to say.
Yeah, and you've had, you know, we had people who died from Britain, people who died from Australia, people who died from Estonia, which has a population of 1.3 million. That's less than Manhattan Island, when everybody's going home from work. So, you know, the centrist political commentator, foreign policy commentator, Walter Russell Mead, headlined his comment on the president's speech last week as "A President Surrenders." Basically, the force of events is, including these awful beheadings, this terrible, fanatic, vicious behavior by this Islamic State group, has really forced the president to do something that he pretty clearly doesn't want to do, and that's to have military troops. So he keeps insisting it's multilateral, even though it's not very multilateral yet, and he keeps insisting we're not going to have any American boots on the ground, even though something resembling boots are touching on something resembling ground.
Yeah, right now, yeah.
And so forth. You know, he spent part of today going down to MacDill Air Force Base in Tampa, actually talking to his military leaders, to the Central Command people who are in charge of, you know, the direct line of command to American military forces in the Middle East. How much time he's spent with these people and how much consultation he's had with them, I don't know. But it's interesting that he felt obliged to go see them. I suppose we have to take that as a positive development.
Yeah, you would think so. And, of course, what he said today was, again, no troops on the ground, combat troops, I should say, now or in the future. And we know that he was advised by his senior general, the top general in the Middle East, to go in with combat troops, or at least special ops forces and advisors, etc. And he reportedly said no to him. So, you know, he's the best general in the room. He's the best doctor in the room. He's the best economist in the room. And, you know, some might call that narcissism.
He's the best healthcare website designer.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, and it only cost $1 billion. That's not bad.
Well, you know, it took. We had 42 months between the passage of Obamacare and the rollout of the healthcare.gov from this administration. There were 42 months from Pearl Harbor to VE Day.
Yeah,
we put 16 million men in the military, sent troops across the sea, built 10,000 airplanes, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of tanks, all sorts of ammunition, sent troops across the sea. That's what we used to be able to do as the United States of America in 42 months. In this administration, in 42 months, we couldn't design a website.
No, it's good that you put that in perspective. It's very important. Let me ask you a couple of other things. Let me ask you first about Scotland and the vote.
Yeah.
You wrote about that. Tell me what it means for us if they vote to separate.
Well, what it means, one thing it means in terms of military deployments or military capacity, the United Kingdom is, when you're looking for allies, when you're looking to be multilateral, when you're looking for military forces to combine you, the United Kingdom is obviously one of the first places you look because of our long-time positive relationship with them, which is not totally atrophied under this administration, despite their insults to Prime Minister Gordon Brown and others. And Britain's military capacity is going to be harmed if Scotland goes independent. Their nuclear deterrent is stationed in Scotland. That's going to have to be removed. There's no other place that they have readily available to put it. You're also going to have our Scots soldiers that are currently part of Her Majesty's troops going to leave the UK forces. Scottish people have contributed more than their proportionate share to British military might and British military casualties over the last 300 years. This will be a diminishment of the capacity of the United Kingdom to be a military ally of the United States, and that just ain't good news.
Yeah, well, not good news for you and me. Obama might be rooting for it, though. We know how he feels about the UK. Do you think that this is going to happen?
If I had to bet, I would bet that they're going to vote no, despite the fact that the British political establishment, the Labour Party, set up a separate Scottish parliament, and then the Conservative government approved the wording of this referendum and the fact that let Scotland set the terms and conditions. So Scots serving in the UK military forces stationed outside of Scotland can't vote, but 16-year-olds can vote if they live in Scotland. Those were all designed to weight the system in favor of voting for independence. I hope that won't be successful and that they will take the advice that the Queen gave very gingerly after church last Sunday, where her handlers allowed the press to approach her talking to Scots. She was up in the Balmoral castle that she has in Scotland, and she attended a church there and said that she hoped that the Scots would think very carefully about the future before they vote. I think that's a signal of saying let's not take chances. The Queen doesn't interfere in political choices. That's the tradition in the UK. But I think that she made a position clear here that was significant.
Let me ask you before I let you go, sir. The midterms. We see now that the Republican in Iowa has even. The other day it was even. Now I saw one poll where they pulled ahead. Of course, we have the neck and neck, according to the latest poll that I saw in New Hampshire. Yet we also hear about, hey, guess what? They depending on who you're viewing and what you're listening to, the Republicans have less of a chance today of taking the Senate than they did a month or so ago. So where are we? Because I've seen it going.
We're in a period. We're in a period with frequent polling. There's some margin of error in polls, and as of yesterday and the day before that, there were a series of polls that looked pretty good for Democrats in contests like Colorado and Iowa and some of these other key Senate races. The results that we had from Quinnipiac today look much better for the Republicans. Those Republicans who want to feel good about the chances there ought to focus and cherry pick those polls that make them look good. I think that, it's wide open and a majority chance for Republicans to pick up, better than 50% chance for Republicans to pick up the 6 net seats they need for control of the Senate. But it ain't a sure thing. As somebody rooting for the Republicans in Colorado and Iowa, I was heartened to see the Quinnipiac numbers today, but they're not the last word.
And what do you make of New Hampshire? I mean, I think it was only that one last poll where the Shaheen and Brown had put, Brown
well,
pulled even.
They've had 2 polls where they've been within margin of error.
Yeah.
Before that, you had Shaheen, the Democratic incumbent, ahead by about 6 to 10 points in various polls. Part of that may be Scott Brown corralling more potential Republican voters and making a better impression on voters generally. Let's remember he was the senator from Massachusetts from January 2010 until the November 2012 election. So he's moved into New Hampshire. He's less of a known quantity there. These 2 polls tell me that that's a very serious contest. In New Hampshire, like Colorado, like Iowa, were states that Barack Obama carried with 51 or 52% of the vote. That was when his job rating nationally was at 50%. It now is nationally at 41 or 42%. And the fact that, so those are seats that ought to be available to Republicans.
Yep.
Not guaranteed, not gimmies, but seats that they have a chance of winning. And these numbers confirm that, yes, they do have a serious chance of winning each of those 3 seats.
We shall.
In addition to
Michael, unfortunately, I'm out of time. They're going to cut us off. So I thank you, my friend. Thank you as always. Michael Barone, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll be next. Matt Lewis will join us from the Daily Caller. Don't go away.